Okay, we're back for the next lesson on the unit circle review. We're going to continue on with finding the coordinates around the unit circle. We've already done the coordinates at 45 degrees, 135 degrees, etc. Now we're going to focus on what happens at 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 120, and etc. around the unit circle. So let's just start with 30 degrees. So again, here's my y-axis. Here's my x-axis, here's my origin, and I want to find the coordinates here on the unit circle at 30 degrees. So I'm going to go right some and up some to create those coordinates, and of course that right triangle with hypotenuse 1. So I'm looking for these coordinates. Now, here's my x, here's my y, and I know that this angle right here is 30 degrees. And if this is 90, it leaves only this angle to be 60 degrees. So I'm looking at another special right triangle, a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Appealing back to geometry and onto your worksheet that I've given you, here is the rule that you studied previously on a 30, 60, 90 triangle. And again, I'm going to blow this up a little bit because it is a little bit difficult to see. Okay, so what we've got here is here's my 30. Here's my 60, and the relationship is the leg across from the 30-degree angle, we call that the short leg, that is denoted as x, and the hypotenuse is double that, 2x, and the leg across from the 60 is going to be the short leg times the square root of 3, and you would have developed all the reasons why this is true in your geometry class, so I'm not going to take the time to prove this. Now, for us, we've got, and I'm going to come down to this little circle right here, kind of recreate it here. Here's my hypotenuse of 1. If I drop down here to get my y coordinate, here we are with our x and our y, and we're looking for those coordinates right there. So if I take this triangle and kind of blow it up again, this is what I have. I know that this is x, I know that this is 2x, I know that this is x square root 3, being that this is my 30 and this is my 60. Okay, here's what I know. I know that the hypotenuse is 1. So I know that the value for 2x is equal to 1. So I'm going to set that up. So 2x equals 1. If I divide both sides by 2, I know that x is 1/2. Bingo. This gets pretty simple pretty quickly because if x is 1/2, so this guy right here is 1/2, then all I have to do to find the longer leg is take that x, 1/2 square root 3, which you know from pre-calculus, we write that more formally as the square root of 3 over 2. We just multiply the square root of 3 times the 1 over 2. And there you have it. So if we go back to this unit circle, we now know that this leg right here is the square root of 3 over 2. And we know that this leg right here is 1/2. And so the coordinates are square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. Just like we did with the 45, 90 triangle, we're going to move around the circle. So if I would reflect this guy over to the left across the y-axis, I'm going to have a very similar situation here. The only difference is the direction I'm moving. So at 150 degrees, I'm going left and up. So this will become negative root 3 over 2, positive 1/2. Those will be the coordinates there. Negative root 3 over 2, positive 1/2. At 210, same idea, coming left and down. So my coordinates will be negative and then negative. So we'll go with negative root 3 over 2, negative 1/2. And then finally at 330 degrees will be positive and negative. So it will be positive root 3 over 2 and a negative 1/2 there. So if you can memorize 30 degrees, then you've pretty much memorized 3 other angles if you follow the pattern. And actually, if you can memorize 30 degrees as being root 3 over 2 1/2, you pretty much have your 60 degrees, because what ends up happening is when you draw your x and y at 60 degrees, the triangle ends up looking like this. You're coming to the right some, and you're coming up some. But things have switched. So now your long leg, here's your 60-degree angle. Your 30-degree angle's up here. Sorry, this is getting a little messy. So everything just switches on you. Here's your 1 of your hypotenuse. You know the short leg is x, and you know the long leg is your x root 3. So when you set 2x equal to 1 and divide by 2, you have still that x is 1/2. So this becomes your half, because x is down here. This becomes your 1/2 root 3, or your root 3 over 2. So for the same reasons, this right here is 1/2 root 3 over 2, which is just your 30-degree angle reversed. This over here is going to be your negative 1/2 root 3 over 2 at 120. Down here at 240, we're going to have two negatives, negative 1/2, negative root 3 over 2. And then finally at 300, positive 1/2, negative root 3 over 2. So there are your coordinates for the remainder of the circle.